Good morning, everyone. Welcome to BlueSync on Thursday, June 19th. I think it was just Memorial Day yesterday. I'm not quite certain how we're already here on the 19th of June, but here we are. So today we're going to be doing a refresh on ListTrac. Now, for those of you that have been around for a little bit, you remembered we have ListHub, which we still have, and then the brand added the product ListTrac. For a while there, we were encouraging maybe using both and sending it directly to the agent so the agent can forward it, a compiled list to their seller, but now ListTrac is actually reporting Realtor.com, where before they were not, because ListHub is owned by Move, which also owns Realtor.com, and all of the political reasons. But now that Realtor.com does have their numbers, their views, their leads syndicate to ListTrac, ListTrac really is the place that we want to have our agents go to set up their seller reports. So this will show the seller how many times their house has been viewed, where the viewers are coming from, which websites, and also where they live that they're viewing. And it's a lot of good information to have a conversation with your seller, particularly this time of year, maybe not so much in Florida, but in Michigan and Ohio. Now might be the time for those conversations of price adjustments, and setting up the ListTrac reports to your sellers can be a really good way to have that conversation with them, because they can see how many times a home is being viewed, compare that to how many times it's being shown, and if any offers have been submitted for their home. So it can be a really good tool for our agents to use. Again, it's now reporting realtor.com. The one thing you won't see on there is homes.com. And that is because homes.com, owned by CoStar, refuses to allow either ListTrac or ListHub, for that matter, to syndicate their views. So that's not on the reports. It's not anything that ListTrac is missing. It's just simply homes.com doesn't allow it. So let's go ahead and jump in. So as ASCs and RSCs, you guys will be able to view the agents in your offices. Obviously, the agent will only be able to see their own listings. So from mycbdesk.com, you want to find where it says ListTrac. Again, it may be in a different spot than what you're seeing mine, depending on how you have your sort on, but it is ListTrac. So before confusion ensues between ListHub, ListTrac, ListSync, listings to leads, there is ListSync here as well. Agents do not see ListSync. That is what we can control the partners that we syndicate to. We can opt in or out of different websites based on what we want for our offices, our regions, and the company as a whole. So agents do not have access to ListSync. They do have access to ListTrac, and you also have admin access to ListTrac. So once you click on the tile, you're going to launch into ListTrac here. You're going to land on your dashboard. So again, because I'm in an administrative account for the Traverse City office, it says all agents. You can drill that down and view just a particular agent as a staff member if you would like to, or you can view your whole office as a whole. You also have the opportunity to change your views. You can see last 7 days, last 30 days, or you can go into custom. So you could pull things like the whole year if you would like. That also has the same option for actual inquiries. So this is when consumer actually fills out the form, clicks send, and the agent gets the request for information. So these are views, these are inquiries, and then you'll see there's just really good information about where the visitors are, viewership based on those websites here at the bottom, aligned to what these are. If you go on the data points, it gives you more information. You'll also see that it ranks by listing, what listings are being viewed more than others. So this can be also kind of a fun stat for the agent that has those listings, so that they know it's the most viewership of that office. We have the heat map, which really shows where people are viewing. So obviously a lot of downstate people are viewing a lot of our upstate properties here. And then as you go, you'll see each option always has that date range that you can pull. This is saved listings. This is shares if the consumer was sharing it to another person in their lives. And then top agent. So Mark Hagan's listings have been viewed the most out of this office, followed by Sean, Camille, so on and so forth, as you can see there. You can also have that to toggle by actually inquiries as opposed to views. So lots of great data. Again, this can be kind of fun to show at a sales meeting once in a while, just so that the whole office is kind of understanding what's going on with some of our online viewership. Over here to the left, you'll see you have the options to go to listings and seller report history. This one can be nice. Maybe an agent comes to you and says, I think I set up ListTrac. I'm not sure if it's going out. Can you check? We can, in fact, check that. So if you go to the seller report history, it'll allow you to see which reports have been sent, when they've been sent, and the delivery status, whether it was sent or, let me zoom in a little bit, delivered, if it was opened, or if it was not delivered would be another option that you could view there. Now, when you go into listings, you'll see all the active listings for the agents in your office. If you go to seller report options here, it's going to tell you if it's already set up. You can help the agent modify it if you want, or if it's green, it's not been set up, you can actually set this up for the agent on their behalf if they request it. If you have an agent that loves the reports, they want it set up in every single listing, it can be a really great customer service to jump into ListTrac, set up the one-time report, which I'll show you in a moment, and then that will automatically go to the seller based on the cadence that you choose. So again, we do have administrative access in order to set this up for our agents. If you just want to do view a quick analysis here, you can pop into this button. Let me go back a little bit farther so there's actual dates on some of these. So this will show you, and I picked a bad option. So this one's fairly new, so it doesn't have any views yet, but you'll see that you can go into each individual listing, and much like the dashboard for the whole office, it's going to give you the stats for just that listing. Let me pop back here a little bit further and see if we can find one with some numbers on it. There we go. So you can see from here, this was viewed 1,938 times. No inquiries were tracked. Doesn't mean there weren't any, by the way. The inquiries are a little bit trickier, just depending on how the websites are set up, how the consumer contacts the agent. It doesn't necessarily mean there's zero. So I really like to focus on the views as opposed to the inquiries. And then you'll see it breaks it down by website, shows that same graph that you saw on the first page, goes into that heat map. So a little East Coast inquiries views have been coming in on this particular property. So that can be a good conversation to have with the seller. If you're looking to, particularly with more of a unique property, if you're trying to do some social media advertising, this can be a great way to know where you should pinpoint that, that social media. You can put in those zip codes and mark it to that. And then you'll see more information here with shares and inquiries, which there were none on this particular property. Now from here, you can preview what that report looks like or schedule the report. So you can do it when you're clicked into the listing, or if you're doing it from the dashboard, you can do that right from here where it says schedule delivery. So either option, it's going to pull up this box here. You're sending it on behalf of the agent. Obviously that fills in. If there's co-list, you can actually toggle that. Both of them should come across. Then you'll put the seller's first name and last name, and of course their email. You can actually send it to more than one person. So if there's a husband and a wife, or if there's an estate with maybe a few different trustees, you can send it to more than one person, which can be nice. You also have the option to blind carbon yourself. So I always highly recommend that the agents, and if you're setting it up for the agent, add the agent to the email. That way they'll have it in their inbox. If they get a phone call from the seller before they can proactively call the seller, they'll have it right there readily available where they can find it without having to log in and pull the report. So you'll see that automatically you can CC the agent right here so they get the exact same report. The subject and the body autofill based on just the template that the brand has created, but all of this is editable. So you can change any of this information if you want to put in more information or whatnot, but keep in mind that's the same message that will go out every time the seller is sent a ListTrac email. So you can customize it every time if you want. You would just have to jump in and get to it before the next scheduled send goes out. Or if you just keep it generic, it'll be the same information that will go out every single time it's sent to the consumer. So now you can see that what you want the reporting period to be, the life of the listing, which we know in the early days, it takes time to syndicate these out, takes time to build some of that momentum. So in the early days of the listing, there may not be very many views. You can do prior 30 days or prior 7 days. So it's just based on what the agent's preferences are. I like to do life of listing. That way it just keeps adding as the seller gets these, they can see that number just continuously tick up. You'll see you have some other options for lead metrics. You can include lead metrics only when listing has one or more leads, so that seller won't see a big fat zero in that inquiry box. So that's a nice option to have. You can change that. Maybe you only want it to see if they've had 5 or more. But like we mentioned, the inquiries are a little bit tricky. So you can just choose to exclude that if they don't have that number of inquiries showing on the report. It just won't be included. You'll see you can always include them or never include them. So again, based on the agent's preference, if you're setting up for the agent, just have a conversation with them one time, and then you'll know what their preferences are every time you set one of these up. Your delivery options, if you don't want to set it up in an automatic to go out in the future, you can leave it as off, but still send it if you would like. You can send it weekly, you can send it bi-weekly, or you can send it monthly. So our favorite tricky word there, the bi-weekly, right? Is that twice a week or is that twice a month? In this particular case, it is twice a month. So you can send it every week, you can send it every other week, or you can send it once a month. Now, obviously, if it's a vacant land out in the boondocks, you might want to send it monthly because there may not be that much traffic. So it wouldn't track that many changes. If it's a hot property on the water, it's going to get a lot of views because it has beautiful photography. You may want to send it bi-weekly, so they're tracking it every other week. You also can choose to send the report on a certain date if you so choose. So it could be a good option. Maybe you want to generate some views first before you send this out. So you want to send weekly, but you don't want to send it until a future date. If you click save on that, it won't go out until the date you choose, and then it'll go out every 2 weeks after that. So lots of options for customization on these reports. If you want to view what that actual email will look like, you can click right here on the blue button, and this is what the report will look like. So it has the photography of the house. It has the stats for the period that you've chosen, whether it's past 7 days, past 30 days, or the lifetime. It gives information for you. It's always branded for you. I see we have a little work to do on that logo. It looks a little squished there, so I'll look into that. And then it's going to give the top websites, the top cities where the views are, and then view more stats on the listing. So the consumer can always click in to drill down further and see that same analytical page that we showed you for the individual listing prior. So you'll see it's the exact same view that the agent or yourself as the admin can get. The seller will also be able to see that if they choose to. So again, a really nice organized email for the consumer. And then the agent has further options here. They can change their headshot if they want, their information. If it's grayed out, it means it's coming from Dash, but you do have the ability to go ahead and change some of those options per listing for that particular seller. So let me back out again. So again, if you're at ASC or RSC, you'll see you have the option to go into individual agents, or if you leave it in the holistic view, you'll see all the listings. Of course, an agent's only going to see those listings that they're either the main primary selling agent, or perhaps if they are a co-broke on that listing, they'll be able to see those as well. And then keep in mind, you have your seller report history here. So if an agent's coming to you and you're like, I don't think my seller's getting these, you can say, oh, yep, they got it. And they opened it. So you can confirm that for them. And then keep in mind on the dashboard, you have a lot of opportunity to drill down into some of this information. So if you're like, well, what is other broker and agent sites? When you click on that, it's going to tell you, well, MoxieWorks, Luxury Presence, Remax.com, because we syndicate, of course, to many, many different websites, IBC Global, so on and so forth. So you have the opportunity to really drill down. If you want to go back to the previous screen, go back to groups, and it's going to show you all of the other options as well. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the chat box and take a pause here to see what questions we might get. Again, it's not a new topic, but it's important to let our agents know that we have this tool. And more importantly, let them know we can do it for them. You know, anytime anything's behind a password, which of course this is because it's in my CB desk, it can be a little tricky sometimes for agents to get in there, but just offer this service as you see a new listing come in. Say, hey, would you like me to set up a ListTrac seller report for your seller? It can be a great way to just give them a little bit of added support, especially in their busy selling season. So I don't see any questions that have come up. Of course, as always, after the fact, if you get in there and you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I thank you for your time this morning. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye now.